started, I'd like to just alert everyone that these books around everywhere, and it gives what it really does. It gives what the income tax is paid in the state of Maine annually, what this budget will reduce, and the amount of revenue sharing, which has been such a big issue in this budget presentation. Along with it is a sheet, and it says, attention, contact your legislators. It's for all the legislators in this region, your senators and representatives. And I ask you, whether you agree or disagree, this is very important, that you contact and you weigh in. Now, people will say, why are we doing this? It's very simply this. Our young people are leaving. Our elderly are retiring and leaving, going out to other states. Job creators come in and they're at risk. And one of the things that I hear all the time from job creators is the lack of consistency in policies coming out of Augusta. What are the big challenges that face Maine? We have about 3 major challenges. One is the inconsistency of public policy here in the state of Maine. I mean, just this week, I'm looking at bills that were presented and passed last session. Haven't even gone into effect fully yet, and they're being changed already. That's what we talk about with laws that keep changing. We have over 2,600 bills we're going to be looking at this year. We're a state with 1.3 million people. Secondly is energy costs. Energy costs in Maine are some of the highest in the country. We have 12th highest in the United States. But what I like to say, and the fact of the matter is, being 12 is not all that bad because we're the lowest in New England. So out of the top 12, all the New England states are part of the top 12. That should tell us all something. And finally, our tax structure. We lose $12 million a year from people who pick up and leave. It's been going on for 2 decades. They just hit 65, and if they have a nest egg and they want to protect it, there are 2 reasons they're leaving. One, fear of dying and losing, having the state take in and jump into their estate and take their cut before they can give their estate to their children or their relatives or their friends or whomever. The federal government jumps in, takes a piece, and then the state jumps in, takes a piece, and then the rest goes on to wherever we may want it to go. And the other one is the tax burden. We have Mainers who live in New Hampshire, in Portsmouth, Ossipee. I've met them, talked to them. I've had a gentleman that called me last week and said, we bought a nice home in Florida. I'm going to wait until they all go home and see what the results of this session is, because if in fact you're successful in getting rid of the income tax and getting rid of the debt tax, then I'm coming home and I'll come to Florida to visit. But if you are unsuccessful, I'm another one of your casualties. I will stay in Florida as a resident. Many of these folks don't want to go there. Would love Maine. But they tell me we no longer can afford Maine. We all live longer. And people on fixed incomes are facing some terrible challenges. This budget, right here, designed to do 3 basic things. Lower the age of Mainers from 44, median age of 44 plus years, to become more competitive as a nation and become a younger state by attracting younger people, young families, keep our kids here. And secondly, is to allow our elderly who retire here not to be in fear of losing their estate, so they could stay here for more than 6 months in a day. I mean, I don't have a problem people going to Florida for a couple months, or Arizona, or South Carolina, but 6 months in a day means they're residents of those states, and I'd like them to be residents of this state. And many people will tell me that's what they want to do, but we are chasing them away. So there are 3 basic things that we're looking to do. 1, eliminate the debt tax, or what they call the estate tax. Secondly, eliminate the income tax over a number of years with a constitutional amendment that will prevent it from coming back in the future. And third is to get rid of income tax on military pensions. The reason that military pensions, I'm going after it all at once, is because in 2016 there will be a big downsizing in the United States military, which has already been announced. The winding down of Iraq and Afghanistan is bringing a lot of military personnel home who will become veterans in many respects. As we wind down, people are going to retire. I would like to be first in line to welcome to Maine so they could come and start their second careers here in Maine. There are already 12 or so states that have no income tax on their pensions. I'd like to be a member of that group. I'd like to also be the number 10 state in America that has no income tax. Now, why income tax, people say? Number 1, you have no choice in it. That's a tax that's done in Augusta. The rates are done in Augusta, and each and every one of us who work have no choice and no say. In order to eliminate it, we're going to broaden the sales tax and increase it a little bit. People say, well, why are you going to increase the sales tax? Well, because I can't totally eliminate the income tax without the sales tax. But this is how it works. There's 1.3 million people in the state of Maine. Out of the 1.3 million people, they pay in $1.2 billion in individual income tax. I want to take that $1.2 billion, and put it back in the pockets of Mainers. And I want to increase the sales tax and broaden it a little bit, because 30 million people come visit Maine a year, and they'll pay some sales tax. In the summer months, 26 or 27 million people come to Maine in 3 months. We are the most visited state in the Union between May and September. They're enjoying the beauty, the most beautiful part of our state, the best time of our state, and so we're going to charge them a little premium for being here. Finally, property tax. There again, you have a little bit of a choice there, like you do in sales tax. You can increase, you can buy a more expensive house or a less expensive house. But this is the reason why that it's important that you understand what I'm trying to do here. Maine is the #1 state in America with second home ownership. And I will say, as some Mainers, a lot of Mainers have a second home, a camp, and a cottage, and all that. I'm not talking about cottages. I'm talking about the mansions between Kittery and Calais. There's some very, very luxurious and expensive homes. And those homes are there because the people who come and visit are very wealthy people. In fact, no, we're not only the #1 state for second home ownership, but between Memorial Day and Labor Day, we're probably one of the richest states in America because of all of our visitors are very, very wealthy. So all I'm saying is, Mainers work so hard, they can't afford the luxury of vacationing in summer because they're working. So those who vacation here in the summer, we're asking them to pay a little more. Now, in my budget for Mainers, I had put in a property fairness tax credit up to $1,600, which meant that people on fixed incomes would pay no more than 6% of their fixed income towards property taxes. And I put in, and we doubled the homestead exemption for elderly. So that money was earmarked. The money that is now called revenue sharing was earmarked for the poor who own real estate and for the elderly. But today I was told that it's been stripped out of my budget. And it's being given back to the towns in the form of revenue sharing. So what we had planned to do is take the money and give it to the property tax payer, the resident. The legislature, they're concerned about the towns. And I can believe that. I can see why they're concerned about the towns. But your governor is concerned about the people who live in the towns. Big difference. I care about you. I'm not so concerned about the property tax in the town because we've done the numbers and we've done the mathematics. And next week there's going to be an analysis that since 1972, when revenue sharing came in, they were supposed to help property tax owners, and we're going to see what happened to property taxes since 1972. And the whole gimmick about property tax relief and LD1 in 2006 and all that didn't work. But you know what does work? If you put the money back in the people who live in the communities and the elected officials within the community want to raise taxes, then you have a say. You all have a say if you go to town halls and you go to meetings. Now, I'm not going to say that everybody attends, but I will tell you this. When it's done in Augusta, maybe out of the 1.3 million people, when there's a public hearing, you might have a dozen people that speak. If you do the percentages, very, very small. So I would urge you all to say, instead of giving the money back to the towns, give the money back to the people. Incidentally, does anyone here remember who brought the income tax to the state of Maine? Ken Curtis. Yeah, that's right. Where does he live today? Sarasota, Florida. Okay. Thought so. Just for the record now. Just for the record. I got in real trouble one day. I said there was a couple other fairly well-known people in Maine who aren't here this week. Never said anything about their taxes. I just said they were absent from Maine. But I'm not going to go there. So what I want to do right now is there's a whole lot of questions that are being asked about this budget. And you're entitled to know. So I'm going to ask Adrian, the office press secretary, to call out, I guess that you all were asked to write down a question. She'll call out your name and you ask your questions, and I will do the very best I can to answer it. And if I can't answer it honestly, I will try to get you the answer, and if I can't do that, I'll get out of town.
This is on. Thank you. Thank you very much, Governor, and thank you everybody for coming out tonight. I would like to recognize one very special lady here. She's with us tonight, and the Governor will say that she is the real boss. Please welcome First Lady of the great state of Maine, Mrs. LePage.
She just came home from being in Florida all winter with her mother. but not for a reason that you think. I did pay my taxes. In fact, she wrote the check and it's going out on the 14th of April. But her mom is ill and she can't be in cold weather, and we'll all agree that this winter was really cold. So, but she's back home too, and I think she's playing the Beano tonight.
Good luck with that. All right, we'll get to the questions like the governor said. We'll try to get to as many as possible. I will try to get your names correctly. Please bear with me, though. This first one is a bit challenging. Ashley Gorzica? Is that right? Gorzica. All right. Let's meet halfway. Hi, Dave. How are you? Where are you from?
I am from Portland. Thank you, Governor, for being here today. And I first want to just say thank you for increasing the property fairness, or the property tax fairness credit in the budget. But I'm very concerned about what the budget's going to do for low-income Mainers, more so new Mainers and asylum seekers who rely on general assistance when they come here, and they're not able to work for at least 150 days until they receive work authorization. And I know many people, some with whom I work, some who I see on a daily basis, who were United Nations diplomats, judges, very professional jobs in their home countries, but they were fleeing terror, persecution, and if they're not able to receive general assistance to help them get by when they come here until they're able to work, they will be left on the streets. So I'm just wondering what you'll be able to do in that 150 days at least to help these new Mainers and people coming forward.
Well, first of all, there is no reason for anyone who is able-bodied not to be able to work, unless the federal government says they can't work. So as long as they are here and they can't work for 150 days, that is not my fault. That is the federal government, and I will help them solve. This year, I just signed a couple of months ago $120 million for new housing around the state. So I am more concerned for the poor in the state of Maine than the people in Augusta. Otherwise, today, they would not have removed the property fairness tax credit, which goes to the poor and the elderly. I'm also putting in my budget a bill to help people get free educations at the higher level, higher education. So, people say I'm a bad guy. Well, let me tell you something. Refugees in the state of Maine, Sudanese and South Sudanese, yesterday in my briefing binder were thanking me, wanted to come up and meet with me and thank me because I'm working so hard to get them established in Maine. And I continue to work there. And they're not a problem. But let me tell you where I do have a problem. Asylees. They come to Maine and can't work for 150 days. And I'll tell you why I'm afraid of that. Refugees, you have a primary and a secondary refugee who come to the United States. Primary comes from a country and they come to, let's say, Portland, Maine. That's a primary. A secondary is someone that goes from, let's say, a foreign country to Atlanta or to Texas and decide to come to Maine. A couple reasons why they do that. Number one is, in January 2011, Maine was the #1 welfare state in America. #1. After 4 years of trying to reform welfare in Maine, we have fallen from #1 to #3. So we're still a very generous state. The only state that is more generous than we are is Vermont and the District of Columbia, which is not a state. So we are technically second. But now this is the problem. If you're a refugee, I'm all in. If you're an asylee, I'm skeptical and I'm concerned. I'm concerned because of this. In order to become a refugee, you have to have a medical assessment in your country before you come here. An asylee doesn't. And today, I was reading on the way down here, I have a letter in there that was sent to me today that says this: by 2050, 75 million people will die of TB, and at a cost of $17 trillion, because the current strain that is being circulated around the world does not get cured with antibiotics. Hepatitis C and B in Maine is on the rise in recent years. The cost for a person with hepatitis C annually to cure it is $102,000, which each and every one of you in this room are paying for it, at least for the first 150 days. And then you have HIV. That is $90,000 a year per individual. So, ma'am, if I sound like a bad guy, I'm trying to protect Maine people. That's my job.
Jackie Edwards. Where are you from, Jackie?
I'm from Gray, and I want to thank the governor for being here today. And my question is, how will your budget affect senior citizens? According to my information, your proposed budget eliminates the Household Exemption Act for people under 65. So as a result, their property taxes will be raised, and I'm one of those. And secondly, this budget cuts the drugs for the elderly program and Medicare savings program, which many senior citizens rely on. So how will...
Okay.